This is your daily briefing. You're most welcome to it, but if you're of a nervous disposition, you may wish to tune into some sort of happy clapper, child-friendly channel. There's a few out there that I could suggest. I'll start ripping through them actually over the forthcoming months, because it's about time we start, held a few mirrors up. Before we start taking lumps out of Spurs, a brief word on Palace, who are without doubt one of the most inherently substandard football teams on the planet. And that immediately raises the question, so what does that make us then? Well, it makes us a complete laughingstock. £1 billion stadium, but a post-it note on a cabinet, trophy cabinet, that reads, "Very sorry, but we blew all the dough on capital assets. Please enjoy your client reference number experience responsibly and exit through the gift shop." This is what we've become. We're a parody of a football club. I'm going to go through the players shortly. This is just a sort of post-game reaction. The quality of the stats that come out immediately after the game are okay, but they're not brilliant. And the stuff that you pay for, I have literally kind of in the post. The diligent people in Italy are preparing them for me, and they might be here later tonight, but I think realistically we'll go through them in the morning. The autopsy is going to be in depth, and I can't urge you enough to please think about what I'm saying. It gives me no pleasure to dig away at the club like this, but this isn't the club that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the club, that Spurs, that we fell in love with and has been systematically neglected over the last 20 years. It's not a debate. There's not a debate. If you've got a single thing to tell me that is relevant, cohesive or coherent, then be my guest. There's a comments box at the bottom, but make sure you've listened and read every word I've said, because you wouldn't want to appear like a noodle brain who hadn't taken it all in, and so what you have joined into the conversation makes you look foolish and unworldly. The first line of defence, because whenever I do these things, I'm thinking about, what are the mitigating evidence going to be? And we did have players missing, but tell me true. Sánchez was definitely a big miss, but was Lo Celso? Many of you don't actually care for Lo Celso at all, and I would question whether he would have been picked over anybody else on the park today, bar Winks perhaps. And Romero, is Romero even match fit? Another burning issue that I have, and it's very difficult to make this point when you're top of the table and it's clean sheet city, but without some clown boring me with the usual insight of, oh, there's a dinosaur, don't like him, can anyone tell me the difference between the football that we got here when we're winning or losing and what we got under Mourinho? Because it's like that Pepsi challenge. I can't taste the difference. I can't sense the difference. I can't see the difference. We were a month at top of the table with Mourinho, and perhaps, I don't wish this, but perhaps it's the case that Mourinho got us a month and this guy got us a fortnight, and that's the difference. I prefer to believe, which is to say my brain opposed to my heart, that one of the problems we're suffering is that we made glacial changes in the transfer window that were never going to address the immediate core issues that were before us. At a glance observations by more or less anybody as intellectually starved as a small child is that we have no midfield force, no playmaker, and Harry Winks really oughtn't to be on our books anymore. Let's start going through the individuals, and as I say, tomorrow, the autopsy, we'll get the body rope opened right up. Dele Alli is now reborn as a hover merchant. He floats around looking animated but achieving the square root of naff all. His position was supposed to be in front of Winks and Skip, but he was everywhere and to no good purpose. I mean, he was popping up making a defensive block, and I saw him on a couple of occasions on corners on the very far post on the other side of Emerson. I understand that during defensive procedures that'll be a rehearsed thing, but Where was the I don't even say it, the Dele Alli of old, but where was the through balls? Where were the balls in the attacking third? We didn't have anything from anybody. Closest guy was Moura, but Dele Alli should be that player, should be that catalyst. It's just a mobile haircut. And Hugo and Harry Kane must be wondering what the hell they're doing at this utterly soulless operation. Emerson's passing wasn't sharp enough, although I did like his positional movement. He looked like if he'd have been in a game playing for a decent football team, he might have been ready to do something interesting. Tanganga we have to discuss because of the lunacy. And I can only tell you that he's on a one-way ride to Stoke City unless he loses the tough guy routine. And what on earth was going through his mind throughout that whole debacle with Zaha? I mean, Zaha's a waste of space. Absolute infant. And he was incapable of turning a deaf ear because the nye went on afterwards. He should have just smiled at him. Give him a belittling smile. But no, he had to show again that he had more testosterone and was more ready to rock. And players like that never win anything. They never get anywhere. Reguilon, he started so brightly with us. And there was a little sort of, you know, you kind of get that, oh, he was at Real Madrid. Now, he wasn't a big shake at Real Madrid, but, you know, Los Blancos, you know, these are the big boys. And now he just looks to have run out of ideas. Poor passing again, poor about everything. And he no longer looks a cut above. It almost feels like he's been sucked down to our level, which is a horrible thing to say. Winks, a waste of space, utter waste of space. Insufferable to have him anywhere near the side. I'm sure his statistics will show that his passing accuracy, I bet you it was 91%. Just off the top of my head, I would guarantee you it's a couple of points either way. Anybody who thinks he still has there's a use for having his continued presence in this sport, let alone at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, needs their head looking at. Skip was off the pace, and this is where we start to kind of open the can of worms a little bit here. And clearly Spurs have nobody in their world-class training facilities even vaguely capable of stepping up to the plate. So that bench that we saw, and I thought when, you know, the beginning of the game, I thought, well, the bench, there's a little bit of dimension there. There's nobody there. There's nobody there you can call on. And the situation with Tanguy now is so obviously kaput, so obviously destroyed. I mean, this is, what, is our third or fourth game of the season, or whatever the hell it is. In any other industry, there would be a full-scale investigation as to how much, so much money was spent so unwisely. And I've said to you before, and it's boring, but I'll go through it again just in case anybody still hasn't got the message. Everything that's wrong with Tanguy Ndombele was in the public domain. Our friend Danny Rose could have done a little bit of Googling and told you there was bad form there. There was attitude problems. There was an inability to commit. Moura was a vague bright spot. But the hope that he gave was so faint. It's so difficult to champion it under these difficult circumstances. Højbjerg tried, but the odds were overwhelming, both from a perspective of the opposition and his own teammates. And at the end of the day, you can't fight stupid. Harry Kane, quite frankly, wasted another 90 minutes of his professional playing career. For all those pining for Gil, and I'm going to be the first in the queue to say I thought some of the tapes that I put up, I thought he looked fantastic. But that's playing under 21 football. For Spain, it's a lifetime away from the Premier League. You can only presume, one can only presume, that Nuno knows more than you and I. And he didn't want the kid to take a battering in a Premier League game. Was he significantly placed as a player to turn that game around and to prevent us having that sorrowful outcome? No, he wasn't. So what would have been the benefit of putting him in there? What would he have achieved on his own? Or, if you like, him and Moura, what light would they have shone on proceedings? I'm left feeling empty. I'm left feeling, not so much angry, I'm dissatisfied, but I'm left feeling empty. We've just been through the shenanigans of this transfer window. with the Don Paratici nonsense, featuring the pitch-side antics and childishly sad grandstanding. Look at me, I'm making a phone call. Absolute clown. I'd send him to a payphone, and you got him and the other hitching creature looping around, ripping his jacket in the bloody seat thing. I mean, it's just backward behaviour. Why would you have done that? And don't tell me about, oh, it's in the red zone and they've got to be grouped together and all this other mumbo jumbo. These people are time wasters. Hitchin has been with us for donkey's years. He's achieved nothing of any note. And Paratici, I tell you precisely where we are. And this to me kind of plumbs the depths of the despair. We're missing Gareth Bale and his ability to make something happen against junk like Crystal Palace. But it's well done, Palace, because it's healthy to know where you are in the pecking order. And this is going to be an extremely long season. Tell me where the positives are. Who's coming back from injury? Who's going to save us? Because at the moment, we've got some clips of Brian Gill. We've got the threat of Romero acting like a flipping grown-up and actually playing for Tottenham, who he signed a contract with. And I just don't see the optimism. It is the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the front of the oncoming train. And this was all too predictable. Oh, we're building. I'm sick of the phrase. And I think, you know, it's very difficult. It's, you know, my dad used to say that, you know, he'd gone to a pub and there's a terrible person in there, I had to leave. And I had to tell him, you know, the moment you leave your front door, you hand over all your rights about bumping into people you don't like. But I'm an old hand at doing this online. And I can only presume that the people telling me that we're building are children. They're either children or very unworldly. Because if we're building, and just bear with me because my maths isn't great, if we're building and Gill is 20, you'd hope he comes into his prime before he's 25. That means that Harry Kane and Hugo Lloris and definitely Sonny and a good few others would be virtually retired. So what exactly are we building? Or are we just simply mending and making do? Because that's what it feels like. You get turned over by a witless gang of chancers like Palace. Trades Descriptions Act ought to have them for being a professional football club. And I've got to tell you, I mean, there's certain clubs that definitely get up my nose. West Ham is probably numero uno and Chelsea a close second. But this sort of fake Eastern European sort of noise-making barrage and this rubbish little small pitch. I mean, I guess I shouldn't kind of take it out on them. But, you know, and you've got Zaha, who's linked with a move every single bloody window, when the reality is he got his fingers burnt, he got his heart broken, and he lost his bottle because things didn't work out for him at Manchester United. So effectively he's a coward, and he's just marking time, trying to convince somebody at the end of every season that can he get a bump in his pay rise. But losing like this, it's not actually the loss, but it's the manner of the loss. And what we learned from the loss, and the fact that the bench may as well have been one of those things left over from the COVID. You know, when the fans sent in pictures of themselves, may as well have had photos on bits of cardboard stuck up, opposed to actually real human beings sat there. Because most of them, Nuno wouldn't trust to play a single game for him. And Matt Doherty, again, I'm looking at you. Anyway, the in-depth stuff in the morning, I think. I don't see much point in banging on about this this evening. Good luck. Keep it Tottenham.